In today's video, we're going to be reviewing one of the coffees that Matt found, as well as giving you a little bit of tutorial on how to do a proper cupping. Are you ready? Are you loose?
I'm ready.
What's going on, everybody? We're here again with Matt, the man from Park and Perk. What's going on, man?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. So, you got something for us?
Yes, new coffee I'm very excited about.
Okay, so tell us about this coffee.
So this coffee is from Colombia, Paisa coffee, Guacacayo, that I'm very excited about.
Oh, all right. Do you know what region or anything, any details about the coffee?
Offhand, I don't.
Okay.
We can look that up.
I will put this down here for you to check out. Let's have a look. Let's have a look and see what we got. Some Guacacayo from Colombia.
Dump it in here.
Yeah, let's put it in there. Into our tray. This is a pretty light roast profile.
Correct.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I took this a little bit past first crack, about 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right, so why people roast just past first crack in a cupping scenario is that it allows you to see more of the defects readily, right? So it exposes the defects, whereas if you take it farther into the roast curve, darker roast, that can help to cover up the defects that may be there. So when you're doing a critical cupping, you want to do a little bit of a lighter roast in order to allow that to show. So for our cupping, we're using a 9-ounce cupping glass. And for cupping, you can use any kind of glass or vessel that you want to use. The important thing is that as you're cupping through your whole coffees, you want to use the same vessel, same quantity, so that you always have consistently even evaluation. Oh, low battery. Oh, that's not going to work. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use 13 grams. All right, then we grind these up.
So what's the purpose of 3 glasses?
Okay, so purpose of 3 glasses, great question. What we're doing is we want to have multiple samples of the coffee, because what we're looking to see is that if we find any defects, are they just limited to one, or are they consistent throughout?
Makes sense.
Right, and typically with a really truly critical cupping, let's say we're cupping at origin, we want to really dig deep into it. The actual number of samples is 5. You would actually have 5, but today, since we've already bought the coffee, you're not like deciding whether you're going to buy it or not. 3 will be sufficient to see if there's any kind of problems to look for.
Understood.
Grind. All right, we've got our 3 samples. Now we've ground them. First of all, we're going to be using the SCA's basic cupping form. So if you've seen this is essentially the standardized way of evaluating coffee across the industry. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the color. So the first section is roast level of the sample. When you look at the spectrum, very dark to light, where do you feel that these fall into?
I would say probably right in.
Yeah, so just put a line
here.
Right across. Okay, let's see right there, good. First thing we're going to do with the evaluation in our first section is fragrance and aroma. Fragrance is dry smell of the coffee. As you're checking out the samples, like in this case, we're picking them up. The newer protocols with COVID don't really allow you to do this. You're supposed to come down and smell, but I'm a little bit old school. I like to get into it.
Get in there.
Get my nose into it. And if you're in a situation where you're just by yourself, like we are here, you could do it as you wish. But if you happen to go to cuppings, you're going to want to follow the protocols that everybody else is following, okay? The scoring that runs across is qualitative.
Okay.
Right? The vertical indicators are intensity, right? So how intense do you think the fragrance is? And this is actually, you're always thinking about it in terms of all the samples combined.
I'd say not intense, but also not intense. Maybe somewhere
Medium, maybe?
in the medium,
Okay.
somewhere in the medium.
So let's say it is kind of a medium, kind of a dry intensity. And if you have any qualities that you're sensing, any kind of particular descriptives, you can put those here as well.
Okay. Maybe a little bit of sweetness of some sort.
That's something to note down. Now, this is the point where people get really florally descriptive.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that builds over time.
I see, yeah.
Right. So it's not something you're like, oh, if you're first time or a few times out, you're like, oh, kumquats and honeysuckle.
Yeah.
No, that's not necessarily how it works. It takes time, and a lot of it also takes discussion with other people to help you form a vocabulary for tasting. Mm-hmm. All right, so next we're going to do is we got to, start to do our timing.
Is there a standardized temperature that you cup at? Do you do numbers for all of this? And that's not subjective.
No, I think that's a great question. It is subjective because
It is subjective.
It's the individual that's giving out the scoring, right?
Yes.
The way we evaluate is standardized, but the interpretation can be subjective. But where that kind of is balanced is that when you're working with people that have a lot of experience, you discuss qualities of the coffee and of the individual scores. And over time, you start to get a feel for where that should be.
Okay.
Pretty much if somebody says to you, this coffee I've gave an 83, that gives you a good indication of where that coffee quality lies.
Okay. So if you put, let's say, 10 graders in separate rooms and all gave them the same coffee, the scores should be fairly
even.
Even, okay.
Fairly equal. You asked about the water.
Uh-huh.
The water you want to come just off the boil, and then you want to pour the water into the cup in one fluid motion.
Okay.
We want to fill it all the way to the top in one pour because we want to create an even cake on top. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to do that while also saturating all the coffees so none of them are dry left on the top. So as you can see, I'm pouring pretty aggressively because I want that turbulence to hydrate all of the coffees. And we also have our rinse cups. So now we poured that, what's going to happen is that there's going to be this blooming on top of the coffee. As you can see, there's a cake of the coffee that's formed on top. We're going to wait 4 minutes. Actually, we're going to do a timer.
Okay.
And we're going to start. And we're going to let that for 4 minutes. In the meantime, what I would like you to do is get down here, take deep inhales, and we're going to evaluate the intensity of the... Oh, goodness, that's Catastrophe.
Do you have a blooper reel?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Do the smelling, and let me grab one more item.
So, is that bubbling the CO2 from just roasting it?
Yeah, that's going to be some of that.
And I remembered you saying you want to cup and taste your roast within about 24 hours because then the defaults don't show later on.
Well, no, it's not that the defects won't show. It's that if you try to taste your coffees within 24 hours of roasting, after that point, you get a lot of CO2 gas that is created as a byproduct of the roasting process. And those CO2 emissions will occlude your sense of taste and your ability to taste all of the flavors in the coffee. So you want to do it within 24 hours just to get a good idea of what the flavor is going to be of the coffee and see if there's any problems. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the smells, the aromas?
I smell like almost like a brown sugary, maybe. Caramel?
Caramel, brown sugar, yeah, okay. Just write those down. The next point we're going to do is the actual break of the crust. So you're going to take your spoon, and the idea which and I'm going to demonstrate it here on this one. Once we pass the 4 minute mark, you're going to basically get down really close. If your nose is almost touching, that's okay. Not yet though.
Well, not yet.
Let me just demonstrate. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your back of your spoon, and you're going to push down into the top of the crust and push away from your nose. And in the moment that you're pushing it away from the nose, you're going to sniff deeply, like that. And what that's going to do is, with the presumption is that there are aromas that are beneath the cap that you're releasing, and you want to inhale those.
You want to get.
All right, so let me demonstrate once on the live thing. So you're going to get down close, put the spoon in. All right.
All right.
And then try that. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's way different.
Yeah, so it gives
I think
you
I
this
got a
kind
little.
of, So here's the thing: if you happen to be one of those guys that you put your nose into
the coffee,
you get coffee on your nose inadvertently, then you're doing it right.
Oh, great!
So any kind of notes from that?
Yeah, it was definitely more intense than what I smelled before.
So where would you say the intensity of that smell was?
On this intensity scale, where are we looking at?
At the break for fragrance. Or
at the break
category.
Okay, I see. I would say up around here.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's think about this fragrance and aroma together. If you were to think about the qualitativeness of it, would you say that it's average, good, very good, excellent?
I'd say very good.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to use the description of very good to help lead us towards a score. Now, if we look at our quality scale, very good is a 7. So would you say that it's just very good or a little bit more than very good or just very good?
I'd say a little more than very good. So
now you have a choice between three other options, 7.25, because we're doing it in 0.25 increments, 7.25, 7.5, 7.75.
Gotcha. 7.5.
All right, so just mark that hash here, 7.5. All right, now we're rolling 6 minutes. We're kind of, in most situations, you're going to wait until about 10 minutes elapsed time before tasting the coffee, mainly because it's just hot and you don't want to scald your palate, which will, prevent you from really getting an accurate perception of the coffee. But in the meantime, we're going to take our spit cups, right? And we're going to skim the scum off the top. Now, different coffees will have different results. Sometimes there'll be more stuff floating at the top. But what you want to do is you're taking your 2 spoons, putting them together like this, and then coming around the rim and scooping up whatever's on top.
All right.
And then just dumping that into your cup. Now, between each use, you want to rinse your spoon. And then we do this one. All right, excellent. So one of the big things to remember as we're cupping is that anytime you use a spoon and enter one of the cups to take a taste, you always rinse between uses. Let's change to fresh water.
All right.
You always want to have fresh water as much as possible. We keep our hot water source nearby. The nice thing about the spit cup is that it allows you to expectorate what you're tasting and reduce the amount of caffeine consumption.
I'm going to use that word from now on. Expectorate.
It's an SAT kind of word, In this particular situation, we're only going to taste 3 samples, so it's not as critical. However, when you're doing larger cuppings, it becomes a little bit more critical. Yeah. All right, we're coming up on 9 minutes, so I think you can take your cupping spoon. If you want to use one of these, you're welcome to as well. All right. These are a little bit different, so we're using, this is more of a traditional, this is actually the ultra-traditional type of cupping spoon.
Fancy.
And it's got this, it's silver, and it's straight, with a pretty big bowl. This is a little bit more of a modern version, that's a bit more bent, as far as the angle, and maybe not as deep a bowl. And then you can also use basic soup spoons like this, which I use the most. Like you'll find guys in the industry, they carry their own spoon.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm not that guy.
Pull your...
Yeah, you know, really. You think that's a joke? It's like, oh, these guys are crazy. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a little bit of liquid, and then you're going to slurp it. And the idea of slurping it is that you want to coat your entire palate to get an even feeling of the flavor. So now you can get a little bit more forceful. Oh, that was a little bit hot. And then always rinsing between. Now, one of the things you're going to find if you do a lot of cupping in the industry is that you're going to hear all kinds of noises from the cupping people as they're cupping. Some have really high pitch, like, and you know, you're kind of like, what? This is affected, right? You think it's and I remember I asked one of the guys that I know, I said, hey, when he's got this really interesting slurping noise, and I was like, dude, do you practice that? He's like, yeah, I do.
I'm not going to come up with my own method.
You're going to have to. While you're doing the tasting, you want to think about the different categories we're going to be evaluating. We're looking for flavor, general flavor. Aftertaste, how does it linger on your palate? Acidity, both intensity and quality, body, how much body or how little body, and then the quality. And then how balanced is the coffee?
Okay.
So those are kind of things you want to think about as you're tasting. And the other things we want to do is we want to taste the coffee over a period of time. Because what you want to do is you want to taste the coffee throughout its temperature phases.
Oh.
To get a full, get a full idea of what the customer may experience with the coffee, right? Because the guest isn't always going to be drinking it hot. Sometimes they'll drink it cold. And so we want to drink through the spectrum.
Yes.
What do you think so far?
I taste very low acidity, for sure. Flavor?
You don't have to determine that at the moment. I'm just asking, like, what's your general thoughts?
Yeah.
General impression of the coffee at the moment. Positive, negative?
Positive.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Really?
Bruh.
Okay.
I'm used to like darker, like City Plus. Taking a lighter roast,
Okay.
it throws me for a loop.
There's two ways you could approach this. Like, what we're doing today is we're doing a lighter roast because we're looking for that defect. So this is a little bit of a different procedure. Whereas you can take your production roast and evaluate in the same way. And in that case, you've already decided on the coffee. Now you're looking to see, okay, is this the coffee that I expect it to be? Right? So after you've roasted it, you're like, okay, let's make sure that it's to our standards. And then if there's any issues, we can correct them.
Gotcha.
But I think it's a very nice coffee so far. Like, I agree with you, the acidity's on the lighter side. I think it's a little bit lower bodied.
So body, describe body to me in terms of somebody that has never done a cupping. Like what am I feeling? What am I tasting?
Okay,
for
body.
body.
For body. That's a good one.
Let's say you just took somebody off the street. You're
So
like,
this is a lot of
cupping.
body. This is a lot of body. Okay. It's a lot of body right here. And I would say the body you could think about as terms of, as you're taking the coffee and you're swirling it in your palate, how rich is it? How thick is it?
Okay.
Does it feel heavy or light on the palate?
Does not feel heavy. I'd say lighter in, like it doesn't it doesn't linger.
Well, the lingering we would think more of as aftertaste.
Okay.
It's really just the sensation of richness and fullness on the palate.
I'm gonna go with right around here is the way I would.
So pretty heavy.
Well, that's middle, right? So with well, I guess that is one step lower. Maybe we'll go here.
So kind of medium body.
Medium, yeah.
Okay. Now you're saying about aftertaste. You're saying the lingering.
Yeah, the lingering. So that's
Are you saying
aftertaste.
it's fast or slow?
For me, it's fast.
Okay,
It's gone. It's gone there.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think it's a very fast. Just because it's fast or slow doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad.
No.
The question is where do you perceive the quality of that aftertaste? How does the lingering flavor feel? How would you describe that?
I'd give it 8.5. Yeah.
That's excellent. Plus.
Yes. Yeah, and like, so 9 is like the best you've ever had, right?
Well, no, 10 would be the best.
10, okay, yeah.
Now, let's think about the acidity now, right? So you've already said that
Low.
it's relatively on the low side.
Yep.
What about the quality of the acidity?
A quality of acidity.
Yeah.
So we're rating...
How does it feel on your palate? Is it a positive quality? Is it a negative quality?
Positive. I'm going with 8.75.
Oh, yeah. I would say there's definitely a nice sparkling acidity to this. It's really quite pleasant, enjoyable. Like some places you go and they have coffees that are really heavy on the acidity, that are kind of more puckering.
Yep.
This is really clean and like
Very
crisp
clean,
and
yes.
just really beautiful. Like kind of like a green apple crispness to the acidity.
Ah.
I think, yeah.
That's nice to think about. Yeah. So I see how you could evolve your...
Yeah, so
tasting. It's like it's a skill that you can learn.
right, and it's basically it's a skill that you just kind of like, as you taste anything in the world,
Yes.
you're just thinking about how you describe it.
Yeah.
But fried chicken, how would you describe the fried chicken?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Are we talking RoFo? Are we talking KFC? What was
I'm always thinking Popeyes.
Ah.
Let's
flavor.
think about the flavor. How would you describe the flavor of this coffee?
We talking like actual notes or
Sure.
just what? Again, that sugary brown sugar. Maybe a little bit of some sort of fruit.
I definitely think you're right with the brown sugar. I think that's a great descriptive.
Brown sugar.
I do think it's a little bit light. It's not heavy on the brown.
Yeah, I smelled caramel with the fragrance. I don't taste caramel with the flavor. There is something like tart, maybe.
Right.
Interesting too. After where we at 22 minutes, it's really evolved. In
Oh
flavor.
yes.
Like Drastically.
Yes, quite a bit, quite a bit. Now I'm starting to get a little bit of dryness on the finish.
Okay.
A little bit of like tannic elements. But let's go back to flavor. So flavor, for me personally, I think you're right. It does have some element of fruit. To me, a little bit more of a citrusy, not really quite lemon, not really orange either, just some kind of light, pleasant citrus aspect to it. How would you rate the flavor?
So this is not subjective. This is like,
Well,
let's say you hate apples and it tastes like apple.
Well, that's
Is this going to be where like somebody's going to be like, I'm rating this low?
Well, there is a bit of that. So, for example, in natural processed coffees, there are some people like me who love it. That berry, strawberry, blueberry aspect to it is just a wonderful thing. There are other people in the industry who don't like natural processed coffees. To them, those same fruits that someone like me enjoys are considered defects. So there is some level of subjectivity that can insert itself, but we try to not let, like I say, if you hate apples and you taste apples, you try not to let that cloud your judgment.
That's a skill.
Yeah. It really requires you to think beyond, because what you're doing is you're trying to record the coffee as presented to you rather than to your own personal dislikes or likes.
I would say 8.25.
Great. All right, now let's move on. So we got the acidity. The body. What did you say about, how would you describe the quality of the body?
I'm going with 8.25.
Now let's think about the balance, right? How balanced is the quality?
Thinking.
Yeah, take your time. It's no rush.
Now balance again, that's like start to finish.
Throughout your experience now.
Throughout my experience, yeah. I'm going with 7.5.
Okay.
Because at the beginning, it changed from the end drastically. Would that affect your score?
Not necessarily. What we're looking for are the flavors, how balanced are the flavors and components of the coffee itself? Are they harmoniously balanced or are they out of sync?
I see. Yeah, gotcha. Oh, that's a good way to put it. Okay, yeah, I'm going with 7.5.
7.5, okay.
7.5.
Now, the next three categories are relatively simple categories. There's uniformity, and these are not really qualitative. These are just identification categories. Are all the cups uniform, or was there one that was out of uniform? Now, as you notice, there's 5 boxes in this category because on this critical cupping would normally be 5 samples. So were any of them outside of being the same?
No.
Okay, so we would not mark anything there. That would get a full score of 10. The next category is clean cup, and that's asking, were all the cups clean in flavor, or were there any that were not clean in the flavor?
And then you forget the taste right after the next box.
Yeah, it's just part of learning, and that's why we keep the samples up so you can go back and retaste.
Yep.
As needed.
Yeah, they all taste the same to me.
All right, so we wouldn't have any discounts there. Were they all relatively the same level of sweetness?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not really wrong with that. Now, let's think about overall. How would you describe this coffee? Very good, excellent, average, good?
I'd put it up in the excellent. But I've had some coffees I've tried that, were... This is better than most of the coffees I've had that I've roasted. So maybe we'll put that in the excellent territory.
All right.
I don't know, outstanding to me, maybe that's hard because that's subjective for me, because I'd say like something that you like the Spro Blend I would put up outstanding.
Oh, well,
based off,
but of course.
And that's that's based off of what my taste has been.
Right.
So I'm going with overall 8.5.
All right, so let's do this. We'll calculate them all together and come up with a score. 7.5, 8.25. Sure. Okay, then 30. What's the last score?
8.5.
8.5. Oh, look.
Is that high?
That's high. High. 87.25.
All right.
How would I really score this? Let's be honest. Let me review.
So you've done this so many times that you just have your
number
in your head. You're like, that's definitely what that is.
It's just more like it's not definitely, but it's just more. I have a wider base of experience to pull from. So
yeah,
And it's really just a matter of as time goes by and you cup with more people, it just helps to build your vocabulary and experience level. That's all. So I say 84, right? There's certain things that I think you were maybe a little bit optimistic on, but I think that, you know, we have 87, what was it, 87.25, and then now 84. I think those are all very good scores. However, here's the thing. So like when it comes to, let's say, auctions or stuff like that, or just buying coffee in general, the difference between 84 and 87 is quite dramatic.
Yes.
So it's important to just kind of be maybe a little critical. But I think 87.5 is a good place to start.
All right.
So what do you think about your choice in coffee purchase?
I'm very happy. Taste-wise, I like it. I had 2 events today that I was using the same roast.
Okay.
Got great feedback.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
People loved it. I didn't tell them, and they're like, is this different? A different bean? It's like, yes, it is. So I got good feedback.
Oh, excellent. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think it's a great choice. Actually, it's really enjoyable.
Oh, good.
Really, really enjoyable. So, hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in the coffee, we'll put the links for Paisa coffee down below. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and, you know, all that jazz. Hope this helps. See you next time.